surviving inside a world that never paused long enough to notice how hard she fought. She lived with her mother, who struggled against demons too large for her fragile heart. The shelter rooms were always temporary, the streets always waiting, and the nights always too long. But even when hunger pulled at her stomach and cold pressed against her ribs, Lizzie learned one thing over and over again: she would have to save herself. Every morning she watched other children rush toward bright yellow school buses with lunchboxes, backpacks, and warm hands held by safe mothers. She watched from a distance, standing near trash bins, hiding her torn clothes beneath oversized sleeves. She wanted to run with them, wanted to learn, wanted to sit in a classroom where lights were warm and words were pathways. But survival came first, and survival left no time for dreams. Still, there was something about books, something about words that wrapped around her heart like a promise. While her mother slept, exhausted from days weighted with struggle, Lizzie would sneak into old libraries to warm her hands between the shelves. She read everything she could find, even pages she barely understood felt like wings growing inside her mind. The librarians would stare at her torn clothes, her tangled hair, but her eyes carried a hunger of a different kind. One night, the shelter was full, and Lizzie and her mother slept under the old bridge. Water dripped from cracks above the concrete. A passing train shook the ground, and her mother shivered in the cold. Lizzie held her tightly, whispering stories she made up from pieces of the book she read. Stories of girls who rose from nothing, girls who broke chains, girls who learned how to climb broken mountains. She whispered and slept, and when silent, Lizzie stared into the promise inside her. Someday, she would leave this bridge behind, not soften its hill for children who are already bruised. The day her mother collapsed on the street, Lizzie felt the ground shift beneath her. It was like watching the only piece of safety she had crumble into dust. When the ambulance took her mother away, Lizzie stood alone on the sidewalk, surrounded by strangers. Faces passed by, cars honked, life moved around her like she was invisible, and she realized in that moment, she truly had no home. The system placed her into schools where she arrived with no notebooks, no pencils, no stability. She sat in classrooms trembling, afraid that everyone could see the truth written across her clothes. She did not belong. But beneath the shaking, there was a fire. For every student who mocked her for her smell, for her silence, for her brokenness, she answered by studying harder. Every insult became fuel. Every rejection became a stepping stone. She read late into the night under street lamps, flipping pages with numb fingers, letting the words burn brighter than her pain. She memorized facts, lessons, formulas, until they stitched themselves into her bones. Knowledge became her shelter. Books became her home. But the journey never became easy. Teachers ignored her. Some saw her as trouble. Some saw her as hopeless. Some looked at her with the tired eyes of people who had already given up on too many children. But one teacher saw the flicker of something more, a spark that refused to die. A storm brewing quietly inside a small girl who refused to kneel to circumstances. His name was Mr. Daniels, and the day he placed a worn textbook on her desk, Lizzie felt something shift. He did not speak to her like she was broken. He spoke like she was becoming. He asked her what she wanted to do with her life, and she answered with trembling words that she wanted to go to college. He asked which college, and she softly whispered, Harvard, as if the name itself was too heavy for her life. Instead of laughing, he nodded. He saw her hands shaking, saw her clothes faded by struggle. But he also saw the fire inside her, a fire brighter than every obstacle around her. He began helping her after school, teaching her subjects she had missed, guiding her through chapters she read alone, correcting her writing, pushing her toward potential she did not yet believe she had. Slowly, Lizzie began to stand straighter. The bus wheels hummed like a soft lullaby as Lizzie leaned her forehead against the cool glass. Her reflection stared back at her, a thin girl with tired eyes, but beneath those tired eyes lived something powerful, something that had been shaped in fire and sharpened by storms. As the city faded behind her, she felt every memory tug at her heart. The cold nights, the empty stomach, the loneliness that clung to her like a second skin. She carried all of it with her, not as chains, but as fuel. The landscapes outside changed slowly. Buildings turned into long stretches of open roads. Trees swayed like they were waving her forward. The sky widened above her, as if offering space for her dreams to finally breathe. She closed her eyes, letting the rhythm of the bus wrap around her. And in the quiet, she whispered to herself that she was not running from the past. She was moving toward the future she had begged the universe for. When the bus stopped near the campus gates, her breath caught in her chest. She stepped down onto the pavement and stared ahead. Harvard rose before her like a world from another universe. Tall, elegant buildings stood in golden light. Students walked with confidence, wearing clothes that looked soft and expensive, carrying backpacks filled with ease and belonging. Lizzie wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly aware of her old jacket, her worn shoes, her small bag. She felt like a shadow walking into sunlight. For a moment, she wondered if she had made a mistake, if she was a trespasser in a place where everyone else deserved to be. She felt the familiar whisper inside her, reminding her of every doubt, every failure, every reason she believed she might not be enough. But then she remembered the bridge, the shelters, the nights she promised herself she would rise. She had not fought through storms just to drown in calm waters. She lifted her chin, inhaled deeply, and walked toward the campus gates. The dorm room she was assigned was small but beautiful compared to anything she had ever seen. A soft bed sat by the window, clean sheets folded neatly. A desk waited patiently for books she had yet to open. A lamp glowed warm like a tiny sun. She touched the blanket gently, feeling the softness with disbelief. It felt like touching a life she had only imagined until now. But the first weeks were harder than she expected. Classes moved fast, professors spoke in a rhythm she was not used to. Students around her seemed to carry an invisible confidence, built from years of stability. Their discussions sounded like conversations she had only read in books. They used words she had never heard, ideas she had never been taught. She often sat quietly, taking notes fiercely, her heart pounding with the fear of falling behind. At night, she studied until her eyes burned, reading pages again and again until the meaning finally clicked. She wrote essays long into the early hours, erasing lines, rewriting paragraphs, pushing herself through exhaustion because she knew she could not afford to fail. Each struggle reminded her of where she came from, and she refused to return to that darkness. Some classmates avoided her. Some whispered about her clothes, her silence, her strange intensity. But some noticed her determination. One girl named Mariah sat beside her in class every day. Mariah came from a wealthy family. She wore polished boots and carried laughter like an accessory. Yet she spoke to Lizzie with warmth. She asked if Lizzie wanted to join study groups. She shared notes without judgment. She offered company without pity. Lizzie did not know how to accept kindness easily, but slowly she let Mariah become a small light in her new world. One evening, as they studied together in the library, Mariah looked at her with curious eyes and asked about her life. Lizzie hesitated. The truth felt heavy, raw, and almost too vulnerable to place into words. But the warmth in Mariah's gaze gave her courage. So she told her. She told her about the shelters, the lost nights, the hunger, the struggles with her mother, the quiet fire that kept her alive. Mariah's eyes filled with a softness Lizzie had never seen. She did not give pity. She gave understanding. From that night on, the loneliness that had followed Lizzie her whole life began to loosen its grip. She still fought silent battles, still cried some nights, still carried old wounds, but she no longer carried them alone. Midterms came faster than expected. She studied harder than she had ever had. Every page felt like a mountain, every paragraph a climb. But the fire inside her refused to dim. And when the grades came back, she stared at the paper with trembling hands. An A. She felt a warmth spread through her chest like sunrise. She was not just surviving anymore, she was rising. Her professors began to notice her. They noticed her thoughtful answers, her perfect attendance, her hunger to understand the world. They began to ask her questions, to push her to think deeper, to see her not as a girl from the margins, but as a mind worth shaping. One professor invited her to join a special research seminar. She accepted with a quiet pride, her hands shaking as she walked home that evening, feeling taller than she had ever had. But success did not erase the shadows of the past. Letters from the hospital arrived. Her mother was unwell, drifting in and out of treatment, her mind fragile, her spirit exhausted. Lizzie visited when she could, sitting beside her mother, holding her hand, telling her about Harvard, about books, about dreams her mother once whispered into her ear. Her mother smiled sometimes. Other times she stared blankly at the ceiling, lost in memories only she could see. One night, after leaving the hospital, Lizzie walked alone on the city streets, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. She felt the weight of two worlds pulling at her, the world she was trying to build, and the world she came from. She felt torn between duty and destiny, between love and survival. She sat on a bench under a flickering streetlight and whispered to the night that she did not know if she could carry both burdens forever. But then she remembered. She had survived colder nights. She had survived hunger, loss, fear. She had walked through darkness with nothing but hope. She inhaled deeply and stood again, reminding herself that broken beginnings don't decide endings. They shape strength. Back on campus, she poured her emotions into her work. She studied with renewed ferocity. She wrote with clarity and passion that surprised even her professors. Her essays began to stand out, not because she was the smartest, but because she wrote like someone who had lived 1,000 lives, someone who understood struggle, someone who knew the value of rising. The morning sunlight spilled into her dorm room, and Lizzie woke with a quiet thrill in her chest. She had survived another night, and the world outside waited like a blank page for her to write on. She dressed slowly, touching the fabric of her jacket, feeling how far she had come. And for a fleeting moment, she allowed herself to smile at the reflection in the window. A small girl had stepped onto a bus from the city streets, and now a young woman walked among the grand halls of Harvard, carrying scars turned into courage. Through it all, Lizzie learned that survival and success were intertwined, that love and hardship could coexist, that every scar was a lesson, every tear a teacher, and every quiet victory a reason to keep moving. She understood the invisible strength that hardship carves into a soul and carried it with her like a beacon. And in quiet moments, she closed her eyes, remembering nights on cold benches, hunger gnawing at her stomach, fear curling around her chest. She allowed herself a breath, a pause, a smile. She had left that world physically behind, but carried its lessons within. She knew now that life would continue to challenge, to test, to surprise. But she also knew that no storm, no fear, no obstacle could ever extinguish the fire she carried. In quiet nights, she often sat by her dorm window, watching the stars, reflecting on her journey, remembering the girl under street lamps, the nights of hunger, the fear, and isolation. She whispered silently about hope, perseverance, love, and courage. She felt gratitude for mentors, friends, family, and the inner strength that had carried her through. She understood that life was a tapestry woven from struggle, triumph, reflection, and compassion. The girl under street lamps had become a woman walking across campus, confident, capable, compassionate, carrying memories and scars as symbols of endurance, not limitations. She had risen through darkness, uncertainty, fear, and challenge, and now moved forward with quiet grace, purpose, and determination. She realized that survival was only the beginning, and that the fire within could illuminate not only her own path, but guide others through their shadows. The morning light filtered softly through the dorm window. Lizzie stretched her arms, feeling the warmth on her face. She stepped outside into the crisp air, leaves crunching beneath her shoes, students moving quickly to classes, laughing, talking, sharing moments she once could only imagine. She walked slowly, savoring the sensation of being fully present, knowing each step carried the weight and triumph of her journey. She had arrived at a place where hope met persistence, where courage met opportunity, and where the past met the promise of the future. Her classes that day demanded focus and attention, filled with rigorous discussions, advanced concepts, and complex projects. Yet Lizzie embraced each challenge with the steady determination that had been shaped by years of survival. Her pen moved across notebooks, her eyes absorbed knowledge, connecting ideas, building understanding. She remembered nights spent under bridges, sleeping on cold concrete floors, feeling hunger gnawing at her stomach, and realized that every hardship had prepared her for this world, giving her resilience, discipline, and clarity. Every success a quiet testament to the girl she had been. Letters from her mother arrived, bringing connection, warmth, and love. Each line was a thread linking past struggles to present progress. Her mother wrote about small victories, recovery, moments of clarity, and continued hope. Lizzie read each word carefully, savoring the bond, and wrote back with long, thoughtful letters filled with her own stories, achievements, reflections, and expressions of love. She understood that family could traverse distance, hardship, and time, and that connection through words could sustain and nurture the heart. Winter nights were long and filled with study. Lizzie spent hours in the library, surrounded by books, notes, and papers. Tea steaming at her side, her mind absorbed every lesson with relentless focus. Her thoughts stretched beyond comfort zones, her thoughts intertwined with lessons learned and concepts yet to be mastered. Every late night, every hour spent in study felt like reclaiming time and opportunity she had once been denied. She drew strength from past hardships, letting them fuel her focus, determination, and vision for the future. Her friendships continued to deepen. Mariah remained a constant source of support and understanding through study sessions, walks, talks, and quiet moments together. Lizzie allowed herself joy, vulnerability, and trust, realizing that connection could coexist with independence and strength. She shared successes, setbacks, fears, and aspirations, finding in their bond both comfort and motivation. The quiet power of loyalty, trust, and companionship became a refuge amid the intensity of academic life. Spring brought new opportunities, research projects, presentations, and community engagement. Lizzie embraced every challenge, contributing thoughtfully, presenting ideas, mentoring younger students, and offering encouragement. She saw in their eyes the same hunger for knowledge, the spark of hope, and whispered encouragement, reminding them that perseverance, courage, and dedication could shape their future. Her own journey became a living example of resilience and possibility, inspiring others to rise. Her mother's health required ongoing attention, hospital visits with academic responsibilities, navigating both with diligence, compassion, and tireless energy. She held her mother's hand, whispered encouragement, and reflected on the quiet strength it took to continue moving forward, even when the weight felt overwhelming. She learned that courage is often found in consistent, loving action, and the ability to persevere despite challenges without faltering. By the end of the semester, Lizzie had grown academically, socially, and emotionally. She carried lessons of perseverance, empathy, and leadership into every aspect of her life. She understood that survival had taught resilience, but life had taught the importance of compassion, community, and uplifting others. Her fire had become a light strong enough to illuminate paths for those still navigating darkness. Summer brought an internship at a prestigious research institute, where Lizzie immersed herself in observation, analysis, experimentation, and writing. Her contributions were valued, her ideas recognized, her diligence praised. She discovered the fulfillment of meaningful work, learning by doing, pushing beyond comfort zones, and discovering the impact of applying knowledge to create change. She felt the satisfaction of seeing effort transform into outcomes, and the broader significance of perseverance and care. Letters from her mother arrived faithfully, bringing warmth, reassurance, and a reminder of roots. Lizzie responded thoughtfully, with updates, reflections, and love. She visited her mother, witnessing recovery, gradual progress, and the rebuilding of trust. She realized that love required patience, commitment, and endurance, and that family could be a source of strength, even amidst difficulty. Each visit reinforced the bond, a bridge built from resilience, hope, and shared history. Her third year concluded with milestones, academic achievements, personal growth, and reinforced purpose. She reflected on the distance traveled, from bridges, street lamps, shelters, and cold floors, to dormitories, libraries, labs, and auditoriums. She smiled softly, acknowledging every struggle, every tear, every act of perseverance, every quiet triumph that had shaped her. She understood that life was rarely linear, and that every step forward was both accomplishment and preparation for what was next. Throughout every season, Lizzie continued mentoring, tutoring, volunteering, and sharing her story. She inspired children, peers, and young students, showing them that resilience cultivated through adversity could illuminate their path. She carried lessons of courage, empathy, and perseverance into daily life, balancing personal growth with service and understanding. She became a source of hope, demonstrating that rising is not just personal, but communal and transformative. In quiet nights, she often sat by her dorm window, watching the stars, reflecting on her journey, remembering the girl under street lamps, the nights of hunger, the fear and isolation. She whispered silently about hope, perseverance, love, and courage. She felt gratitude for mentors, friends, family, and the inner strength that had carried her through. She understood that life was a tapestry woven from struggle, triumph, reflection, and compassion. The girl under street lamps had become a woman walking across campus, confident, capable, compassionate, carrying memories and scars as symbols of endurance, not limitations. She had risen through darkness, uncertainty, fear, and challenge, and now moved forward with quiet grace, purpose, and determination. She realized that survival was only the beginning, and that the fire within could illuminate not only her own path, but guide others through their shadows. The morning was quiet, soft golden sunlight spilling across the campus paths. Lizzie walked slowly, savoring the crisp air, the crunch of leaves beneath her shoes, the faint hum of students moving to classes. She carried her backpack, heavy with books, light with hope and determination. Every step felt deliberate, a quiet affirmation that she had survived everything that once threatened to break her, and that she now belonged fully in this world she had fought. The dawn was quiet, soft golden light spilling across the campus. Lizzie stepped outside her dorm and felt the crisp air brushing her face. Leaves crunched beneath her shoes, students hurried past, laughing, talking, sharing moments she had once only dreamed of. She walked slowly, savoring the sensation of presence, belonging, and achievement. Every step carried the weight of her journey, the nights of hunger, the fear, the cold, the uncertainty, and the triumph with having risen above it all. Her classes that day demanded focus, deep thought, and determination, filled with advanced concepts, challenging discussions, and rigorous assignments. Yet, Lizzie met each challenge calmly, confidently, and with unwavering persistence. Her pen moved across notebooks, her eyes absorbed knowledge, connecting ideas, synthesizing lessons, building understanding. She remembered the nights spent under street lamps, the nights with no warmth, no food, no certainty, and realized that every hardship had forged her resilience, her clarity, and her strength. Every success now was a tribute to the girl she had once been. Letters from her mother arrived, bringing connection, warmth, and love, each line a reminder of survival, endurance, and hope. Her mother wrote about recovery, progress, moments of clarity, and small victories. Lizzie read each word carefully, cherishing the bond. She responded with long, thoughtful letters filled with stories, achievements, reflections, and love. Understanding that family could span distance, hardship, and time, she held on to the connection that sustained her even in the most demanding moments. Winter brought long nights and endless study. Lizzie spent hours in the library, surrounded by books, notes, and papers, tea steaming at her side, her mind absorbing lessons with intensity. She intertwined past lessons with new ideas and allowed her focus to stretch beyond comfort zones. Every hour of study felt like reclaiming what had once been denied her. She drew strength from adversity, letting it fuel determination and sharpen focus for the future. Friendships deepened. Mariah remained a steadfast companion through study sessions, walks, talks, and quiet moments. Lizzie allowed herself joy, vulnerability, and trust, knowing connection could coexist with independence and strength. They shared victories, setbacks, fears, and aspirations, finding in the bond comfort, motivation, and resilience. The quiet power of trust, loyalty, and companionship became sanctuary amid the intensity of academic life. Spring arrived with opportunities for research projects, presentations, community engagement, and mentoring. Lizzie embraced each challenge, contributing thoughtfully, presenting ideas, mentoring younger students, and offering encouragement. She saw in their eyes the same hunger for knowledge, the spark of hope, and whispered encouragement, reminding them that courage, persistence, and dedication could shape their path. Her own journey became a living example of resilience and possibility, inspiring others to rise. Her mother's health required continued attention, and Lizzie balanced hospital visits with academic responsibilities, navigating both with diligence, compassion, and tireless energy. She held her mother's hand, whispered encouragement, and reflected on the quiet strength it took to continue moving forward even when the weight felt unbearable. She learned that true courage is often found in consistent, loving action and the ability to persevere despite challenges without faltering. By the end of the semester, Lizzie had grown academically, socially, and emotionally. She carried lessons of perseverance, empathy, and leadership into all aspects of life. She understood that survival helps, but life had taught compassion, community, and the power of uplifting others. Her fire had grown into a light strong enough to illuminate paths for those still navigating darkness. Summer brought an internship at a prestigious research institute where Lizzie immersed herself fully in observation, analysis, experimentation, and writing. Her contributions were valued, her ideas recognized, her praised. She discovered the fulfillment of meaningful work, the satisfaction of pushing boundaries, and the joy of applying knowledge to create impact. She felt pride in seeing effort transform into outcome and understanding the broader significance of persistence.
Letters from her mother were a reminder of roots. Lizzie responded thoughtfully with updates, reflections, and love. She visited her mother, witnessing recovery, incremental progress, and the rebuilding of trust. She realized that love by patience, commitment, and endurance, and that family could be. Each visit reinforced the bond, a bridge built from resilience, hope, and shared history. Her third year concluded with milestones, academic achievements, personal growth, and reinforced purpose. She reflected on the distance traveled, from bridges, street lamps, shelters, and cold floors, to dormitories, libraries, labs, and auditoriums. She smiled softly, acknowledging every struggle, every tear, every act of perseverance, every quiet triumph that had shaped her. She understood that life was rarely linear, and that every step was both accomplishment for what was next. Throughout every season, Lizzie continued mentoring, tutoring, volunteering, and sharing her story. She inspired peers and young students, showing them that resilience cultivated through adversity could illuminate their path. She carried lessons of courage, empathy, and persistence into daily life, balancing personal growth with service. She became a source of hope, demonstrating that rising is not just personal, but communal and transformative. In quiet nights, she often sat by her dorm window watching stars, reflecting on her journey, remembering the girl under street lamps, the nights of hunger, the fear, the isolation. She whispered silently about hope, perseverance, love, and courage. She felt gratitude for mentors, friends, family, and the inner strength that had carried her through. She understood that life was a tapestry woven from struggle, triumph, reflection, and compassion. The girl under street lamps had become a woman walking across campus, confident, capable, compassionate, carrying memories and scars as symbols of endurance, not limitation. She had risen through darkness, uncertainty, fear, and challenge, and moved forward with quiet grace, purpose, and determination. She realized that survival was only the beginning, and that the fire within could illuminate not only her own path, but guide others through their own shadows. The sun rose softly over the campus. Lizzie stepped out of her dorm, breathing in the crisp morning air. Feeling the warmth of light on her face, she walked slowly across the paths. Leaves crunched beneath her feet. Students hurried past, chatting, laughing, sharing moments she had once only imagined. She carried her backpack, heavy with books, light with hope, every step a reminder that she had survived every hardship, every fear, every cold night, and that now she belonged fully in this world she had fought to claim. Her classes that morning were challenging, filled with rigorous discussions, complex assignments, and critical thinking exercises. Yet Lizzie met each challenge with calm determination and unwavering focus. Her pen moved across notebooks, her eyes absorbed knowledge, connecting ideas, synthesizing lessons, building understanding. She remembered nights under street lamps, sleeping on concrete floors, feeling hunger gnawing at her stomach, and realized that every hardship had forged her resilience, her clarity, and her courage. Every success now was a tribute to the girl she had once been. Letters from her mother arrived, bringing warmth, connection, and love. Each line reminded her of survival, endurance, and hope. Her mother wrote about recovery, progress, small victories, and moments of clarity. Lizzie read each word carefully, cherishing the bond. She responded with long, thoughtful letters, filled with stories, achievements, reflections, and love. Understanding that family could span distance, hardship, and time, she held on to the connection that sustained her, even in the most demanding moments. Winter nights were long, filled with study. Lizzie spent hours in the library, surrounded by books, notes, and papers, tea steaming at her side, her mind absorbing lessons with intensity. She intertwined past lessons with new ideas and allowed her focus to stretch beyond comfort zones. Every hour spent studying felt like reclaiming what had once been denied her. She drew strength from adversity, letting it fuel determination and sharpen focus for the future. Friendships continued to deepen. Mariah remained a steadfast companion through study sessions, walks, talks, and quiet moments. Lizzie allowed herself joy, vulnerability, and trust, knowing connection could coexist with independence and strength. They shared victories, setbacks, fears, and aspirations, finding in the bond comfort, motivation, and resilience. The quiet power of trust, loyalty, and companionship became sanctuary amid the intensity of academic life. Spring arrived with opportunities for research projects, presentations, community engagement, and mentoring. Lizzie embraced each challenge, contributing thoughtfully, presenting ideas, mentoring younger students, and offering encouragement. She saw in their eyes the same hunger for knowledge, the spark of hope, and whispered encouragement, reminding them that courage, persistence, and dedication could shape their path. Her own journey